The Toronto Community Housing Corporation is Canada's biggest landlord. And these are some of its apartments, buildings in critical need of repair, home to seniors, families, and the less fortunate. But beyond the crumbling walls and mattresses riddled with bedbugs, there's a far more dangerous, even deadly side to living in Toronto community housing. This disturbing footage was captured by surveillance cameras in March of this year at a townhouse complex in Lawrence Heights, otherwise known as the Jungle. 5 men were wounded and an 18-year-old was gunned down and killed. This is where the shootings took place. And as frightening as it was, it's not an isolated incident. W5 has looked at homicides in Toronto and has found that 81 murders have taken place on or near Toronto community housing properties in the last 3.5 years. That's 1/3 of all the homicides in Toronto during that period. And it's not just murders. Police are called regularly to deal with gang violence, drugs, guns, sexual assault, and robberies. And the security budget for Toronto community housing hasn't gone up in 5 years. In fact, it's gone down. There used to be security offices in its buildings, but in 2004, they were closed to save money and replaced by roving patrols, which tenants insist are ineffective. Tenants like Suzette Cadogan, who has experienced the violence firsthand. A single mom raising her family in Toronto housing. On the night of August 3rd, 2005, any parent's worst nightmare came true.
I heard banging, everybody running, saying to get down on the ground. And I was screaming, "Where is Shaquan? Where is Shaquan?"
Shaquan, her 4-year-old boy, had just been shot. He was out in front of his townhouse with family and friends when he was hit by a spray of bullets in a drive-by shooting.
I was out of my mind. I couldn't face it because I think more or less he was gonna die.
Shaquan was severely injured. Today he's almost 8, and of the 4 bullets that struck him, 2 are still inside. One in his foot, the other close to his bladder. Do you hold them responsible in any way?
They are responsible for security, for securing us. Because it's a big community, there is so many kids, and you cannot rent your place to tenants and leave them unsecure.
You never feel safe?
No.
The Cadogan family is suing Toronto Housing for nearly $5 million for negligence, claiming shutting down security offices, including this one close to her home, in favor of mobile patrols, put her family at risk. Across town, George Pappas lives here in this Toronto housing high-rise. He worries about safety as well.
As you can see, that door should be unlocked. This is supposed to be locked, however, it's never working. You can just walk right through.
It's an open door for all kinds of illegal activity.
I was taking a look through the stairwell because a neighbor had told me there was some urine and some other stuff around, and I saw these kind of things.
Outlines of guns spray painted in the stairwell, a chilling reminder that his building is anything but secure.
You know, I don't think this has even been reported. I understand there used to be at one time on-site security, which did regular patrols. They removed that security officers. Then they had routine regular patrols. Now I understand they only respond to an emergency call. I think residents would like to see a lot more of a response from the administration.
To find answers, W5 went to Toronto Community Housing. Its offices are in the heart of one of Toronto's most desirable neighborhoods. Derek Ballantyne is the man in charge. He blames it all on money.
The choices are quite stark for us. If we double the spending on community safety, we reduce the amount of money we have available for maintenance. And frankly, when we're that far behind the 8 ball on maintenance and capital improvements, we can't really afford to reduce much of anything on the maintenance side.
We walked into a lot of the buildings. You have the security cameras up. People just walk in and out. No one comes in there from your security and says, "What are you doing here?" and get the heck out.
We obviously can't be in every stairwell in every building at every point in the day or night, so we do it on a regular patrol basis. And we have increased where we detect a problem or where we know there are particular issues, we increase that patrol frequency.
But patrols can't fix things like this.
This door's locked, right? We've got real great security here. Everyone's known that they can just get in by pulling this door right here, and it just comes open. There's no security here whatsoever.
Pappas has been documenting problems in his buildings for months and recently captured an assault on video right outside his door. Sadly, an all too common occurrence in Toronto community housing buildings.
Yeah, can I get police and ambulance?
Okay, are there any weapons?
I don't know. He's got the girl now and the guy's taken off, so.
I think the only other place you're going to find this many people housed with this many issues is a prison.
Well, the police are doing everything they can, but...
Frances Nunziata is a Toronto City Councillor who is one of the Housing Corporation's harshest critics. She took W5 on a tour through a complex in her ward.
Well, the problems we're hearing is that there's a lot of drug dealings going on in the building. They're afraid for safety because there's no security at all in any of the buildings. We've had a number of shootings.
So many families are here with their little children.
Yes.
And at night it almost becomes like they have to barricade themselves in.
Yes, a lot of them are afraid to walk out here at night. A lot of them just stay in their apartments. They won't even answer the door. If you knock on their door, they won't even answer the door.
You would think with a multi-billion-dollar asset that Toronto Housing Corporation has, that they would really want to take care of it, maintain it.
This is a huge asset for the City of Toronto. We own these buildings. If this was a private owner, we would have these buildings closed up. We would have them condemned. But because it's Toronto Housing, we continue to have people living in them.
This is a city-owned building. You and I own it. Everybody that's watching this, you own this. We own this together. If this was happening at your library, at your city hall, or at your swimming pool, you'd be outraged. Outraged.
Derek Ballantyne says he's been asked to do the impossible. He blames the province, which dumped all of its public housing onto the City of Toronto back in 2001. Including $230 million in much-needed repairs.
We have an obvious capital investment deficit in this housing portfolio. We can't, we have to play the cards that were dealt to us by provincial governments and other orders of government in terms of managing this housing stock. We don't manufacture money.
But in the interim, with all of the excuses, these people still live with the garbage and the mice and the cockroaches.
Well, we don't disagree that people are living in poor conditions. The question is, to what effect can we make a change without the resources at hand?
Maybe so, but W5 found that 30 Toronto community housing employees make more than $100,000 a year, including Derek Ballantyne, who at $211,000 a year makes more than the mayor.
The fact that we have staff who have bring a lot to the job and are paid a comparable or an industry wage in comparison to the public service, I don't think we should feel guilty of that.
At some point, the blame, the finger pointing, the excuses has to stop, and someone has got to stand up for the people who have to live in this kind of housing and say, enough is enough. Enough is enough.
And our board has done that. Our board has been actively lobbying and campaigning for governments to come back and reinvest.
So your defense of the people who live in your housing is that your fight is falling on deaf ears?
Our fight is so far fallen on deaf ears with certainly provincial and federal governments.
Do you go out to the provincial government, to the municipal government, to the federal government and say, look, guys, these places are crumbling, we've got security problems, we've got cockroaches all over the place, we gotta fix it.
We've been absolutely clear, and I have spent a great deal of my time and energy over the last 2 years doing just that.
Ballantyne believes the solution is here, with the Ontario government, which recently gave Toronto $36 million to help with repairs. But that's only 10% of what's needed. The man in the provincial government hot seat is Jim Watson, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
What we're trying to do at the provincial level is at least do what we can to give Toronto Housing and other organizations enough money to deal with some of the severe health and safety issues as a first priority, and to start making repairs so these people are living in decent conditions.
The price that the Toronto Community Housing Corporation is paying is that they are stuck with the notoriety of being known as Canada's biggest slumlord, and the people who live in those buildings have to live with cockroaches and bed bugs and garbage and everything crumbling around them.
The conditions that these people are living in, many of these people are living in, is not acceptable. But we need the federal government at the table if we're going to actually make a dent.
With Toronto Housing blaming the Ontario government and the province passing the buck to Ottawa, tenants like Stan Brodzinski continue to live in squalor. Sometimes when you're alone in this apartment, does it feel to you like a prison cell?
Yes.
It does. Why?
Because it's not safe to be walking around alone. I just stay here and keep the door locked. I don't feel as bad for myself. I feel terrible for the little kids that have to grow up in this environment.
Too dangerous.
Yes. So I feel worse for them than I do for me.
Children like Shaquan, a survivor of violence. His mother worries others might not be so lucky.
How many more lives are we gonna lose in metro housing? How many more young people life gonna be cut short in housing without security? How could we live like this?
The Toronto Housing Corporation says the backlog of repairs is so serious that it expects the cost to fix all the problems will climb to more than $1 billion within the next 6 years. In the meantime, the waiting list for subsidized housing in Toronto keeps growing. There are now 70,000 people on the waiting list.